Oh, okay. We're live now. Okay. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey, long time.
I know it's been so long, Yani. It's been 2 years, Abba. About 2 years.
2 years. 2 years, roughly 4 months, 5. Yeah, 4 months, around 4 months.
Because we last saw each other in 2019, December or November.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, when we were with the gang. Yeah. It's long since I last saw the guys.
Okay. Looks like my laptop. It's not charging. I'll have to sort that. I'm just going to pause my window for a bit.
Okay.
And then get my laptop to charge. Let me get my charger. Sorry. Okay. Okay, now we are back. We can, as we wait for a few people to join, we can do a bit of an icebreaker.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions as we wait for. Let's get to 10. When we get to 10 people, we can start.
Okay.
Okay, so Brian, what's your best English food?
Oh my word. English food. I don't think I have any specific liking for English food, but I enjoy lasagna, but not the vegetable lasagna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good one. Yeah.
So Kenyan food, what's your best Kenyan food? Ama in general, what's your best meal?
Nikiwa huku hivi mi hupenda kupika ugali sana.
Uh-huh.
I do a lot of ugali with
Definitely.
chicken and beef, mostly chicken, because I love the sauces that are here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that kind of sticks out for me. I do that at least twice every week.
Ugali?
Yeah.
Okay, I totally
Lena ilikuwa
understand.
blessed sana kupata unga hii mtaa.
Uh, okay, winter or summer for you? Which season do you prefer?
Summer, absolutely.
Summer.
Yeah,
Why?
summer, because it allows me to go out late.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to go out for a jog, I would prefer doing it somewhere between 9 and 10 p.m. Which in summer bado kuna mwangaza, and they start feeling that, well, si time ya kulala bado. Yeah, so summer for me, and then the temperatures are really welcoming, kind of reminds me of home.
Don't you think it's too hot? Some days are too hot.
Except when kuna heat wave. Yeah, but
Okay.
generally with the sun, and the weather is just basically better than in winter. Winter unapata kunanyesha, it's just chilly, so cold, you have to go to work, you have to wake up. That's even the worst bit of it. You have to
Day
wake up.
shift, going for a day
Yeah.
shift. Okay.
Yeah.
So last question before we start. Day shift or night shift for you? Which do you
Day
prefer?
shift all the way.
Day shift. Oh, there we
Yeah.
agree. I'm also day shift all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have 7 people. I think that's good enough. We can start. So, hi guys, welcome to another live by World Class Nurse. I'm so happy, I'm so excited to do this because this is the first live we are having this year, and I'm so excited that I can do it with Brian. So my guest today is Brian Kanyingi. Brian was my classmate. So I've known Brian for about 10 years now. Yeah, about
Mm.
10 years. And he was also our class rep. So the glasses, oh, Brian was so strict as a class rep. So we came to the UK both at the same time in 2019. But while I went to work for the NHS, Brian went to work in a care home, and he's been
Mm.
working there up to now. So I guess that's why I thought he's the best person to talk about his experience. So many people normally ask me, should I go work to a care home or should I go work in NHS? And I'm going to be honest, most times I advise them to go work in NHS. I've just realized
Mm.
I've always not been objective enough because, to be honest, I don't understand what goes on in a care home, and that's why
Mm.
we are having this live today, just to have an understanding of the work routine in a care home, the patient ratios, the advantages, what Brian loves about his job. So for me as well, this is also a learning session for me because, to be honest, up until now, I have not a clue of what goes on in a care home. So maybe let me give Brian a chance to introduce himself.
Yeah, mi naitwa Brian. My name is Brian. Just in case kuna, you know, English
Yeah.
speaking fellas. Yeah, so my name is Brian. And yeah, like Gertrude said, I've known her for a considerable period of time, since 2012 back in campus. Um, she was quite a competitive student, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I remember back in the day we were aspiring to join the Red Cross Society back in first year, and we I don't know what happened, but just things never worked out, and then classwork just became too much, and um, so after graduating, I never saw Gertrude up until our internship period back in 2018,
Yeah,
and
17,
then
18. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then we started working in different places. So I met her one time at a bus station, and then she told me that she's planning to do the NMC stuff, registration and all that, the CBT. So at that point, I was almost finishing my process.
Yeah.
So it was quite a coincidence to learn that she's also planning to come to the UK. And I came in 2019 September. She came early September, and then she
September.
came somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, mid
September. You came at
September.
the end, yeah?
No, mid
Mid-September.
September. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, she went to the NHS. I went to work for a care home, in a care home for a private company, and the journey has been quite interesting. Just to summarize, maybe adventurous should be the word.
Uh, I,
There's been the bad days and the good days, and um, well, like you said, I think there's this attitude about um, the NHS and care homes. Someone might be too quick to brush off a care home and run to the NHS, or someone might run to the care home and brush off the NHS. It really depends on where your foot lands.
yeah.
Yeah, and basically on how much knowledge you know about these two places.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think most people who ask me this are people who have the opportunity for both. So they
Yeah.
want to make an informed decision based on information. So let's go straight into it. So
Mhm.
first, I want us to talk about our routines, our work routines. So
Mhm.
basically, I work in a medical ward in the NHS.
Mhm.
So when I go in for a day shift, my shift starts at 7:30.
Mhm.
Immediately at 7:30 we start handover, so there is no room to be late. Like if you go 7:35 you're late. So
Mhm.
immediately at 7:30 we start handover. Then after handover we go straight to doing our morning medication. This
Mhm.
normally takes between 8 until 10 a.m. because some of these patients have up to 20 medications. So you really
Mhm.
have to be keen. And then if you have a patient who is not taking the medication, you have to persuade them, or they're taking it one by one. So
Mhm.
usually it takes about 2 hours to do the morning medication. But in between, we have a board round, and a board round is just like a meeting for doctors. It normally has doctors, the consultant, the ward doctors, the nurses, the
Mhm.
physios, the occupational therapist, discharge facilitator, and sometimes the admin of the hospital. So in the
Mhm.
board round, you quickly go through all the patients and their conditions. So most times it's the nurse in charge who goes for the board round. But
Yeah.
it's always good to go for a board round because you get to hear what they're saying about your patient, and it helps you to plan your care and prioritize your care through the day. So after the board round and after our meds, you can go for break. So we start break. Really, break is whenever you finished.
Mhm.
So most days for me, I don't have breakfast in the morning. So I normally like to rush it through so that I can have my breakfast mostly between 9:30 and 10:30. So you have 30 minutes
Mhm.
break for
Mhm.
tea or for breakfast. And then when you come back, you do your obs. You have to do the observations for all the patients. You have to do blood sugars for diabetic patients as well.
Mhm.
Before you know it, it's time for medication round again. It's midday
Yeah.
time for medication round. So that's basically my morning
Mhm.
on a day shift before we get to the afternoon. So, what does your morning look like in the care home when you get at work?
Well, I'll speak of my mornings, not now, but a couple of months ago, because I now work in a different department, sort of, which the routine is quite different.
Okay.
So typically, when I first came in, or maybe the routine for most of the nurses who I work with, at the moment is you wake up early in the morning. You have to be at work at 7:45. Yeah, there are days when I have to be there at 7:45 as well. Um, so at 7:45, you normally log in. Of course, you go change, and then by 8 you have to be seated for the handover. So our
Yeah.
handover starts at 8, and it's not a big handover because at the moment our occupancy is not that high. And then because we have different floors and the handovers are quite independent, one floor gives their own handover, and then the other floor a different handover. So by around 8:10, you're done with handover, and then you have to start your drag round. But before you do that, you have carers that you have to work with. So you have to do your allocation, assign carers their duties for the day. You have
Yeah.
to check what's on your tasks for the day. There are different things that happen during the day. Bearing in mind, this is a care home, so you have relatives coming in, you have visiting doctors, you have visiting professionals, physios, dietitians, and so on and so forth. So you have to be aware of what to be expecting for that day. After that, then you commence your drag round.
Yeah.
Your drag round, or rather, my drag round will probably take me about an hour and a half. um, Again, because as you might be aware, when you discharge patients from the hospital into the nursing homes or care home settings, most of them have stabilized, but they still have a lot of medications to give. So, and you have patients with peg tubes and so many things. So it takes about 1 hour, 30 minutes or so. And then at around 11, we have a meeting where we sit down with the manager, we sit down with the nurses, we sit down with the senior carers, we sit down with the chef, we sit down with the admin, we sit down with the activities coordinator.
Okay.
Yeah,
The chef is in the
the
meeting.
chef. The chef has to be in the meeting
Okay.
because, yeah,
That's
funny enough, well,
interesting.
I mean, in a care home, um, you have residents whose nutrition is really important.
Okay.
Some of them have been discharged while underweight from the hospital, so their BMI is low. When they come to the care home setting, your target is to promote their quality of life, and one of the aspects of doing that is making sure that their weight is within the appropriate range. So that is why we have the chef in there. We
Okay.
have patients with different dietary modifications and requirements, and so many things. We have the admin there because basically she's in charge of staffing and
Everything here.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the activities coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
because the residents need to be actively engaged.
Mm-hmm.
The residents are patients, for those who are wondering. When a patient comes from the hospital, they are called the
Yeah,
residents
and
when
and
they
I
go
think
to.
maybe Brian, before you
Yeah,
continue,
yeah,
what
sure.
type of patients do you have? Like, what's the age bracket? What sort of illnesses do they have? What are their needs like in the care home?
So before that, before Nijibu, that question,
Mm-hmm.
people might be confused about a nursing home and
Home.
a
Yeah.
residential home. So a residential home is completely different. You have patients who are highly active with high risk of falls.
Mm,
You probably do not need a lot of nurses. You need a lot of carers,
yeah.
and they are normally big. They are normally very big, and the capacity is quite high. Um, in a nursing home setting, let me just use care home for this, for the sake of this stream. So care home, when I say care home,
Okay.
it's
So,
a
so
nursing home. So
wait, let's
yeah,
clarify. Let's go back a bit.
yeah,
So,
mhm,
under care homes, it can either be a residential home
yeah,
or a nursing home
yeah,
because
yeah,
they're
and
usually called
it
nursing homes. Yeah.
yeah, it can also be a nursing and residential home.
Or both.
Um,
Both can be mixed
yeah,
together. So
yeah,
a
both can
care
be
home
mixed
is
together.
typical nyumba ya wazee, where just
Yeah, yeah,
elderly people are there
yeah,
just because their relatives can no longer take care of them.
yeah. That's a residential home.
Okay, and a nursing home now is uh,
You will
for.
barely receive a patient for a nursing home, a patient coming from home
Oh, okay,
who
yeah,
just wants to
that
be in a
makes
care
sense.
home, you
Oh,
know.
that makes sense. That makes a
But
lot of
we
sense.
normally receive patients from the hospital who are
Mhm.
at home, went to the hospital because they had different illnesses
Issues.
or different, yeah.
Mm,
So they have been stabilized, and instead of prolonging their hospital stay, um,
mm,
the discharge teams and the CCGs, they normally do the assessments. Um, After they
okay.
establish their level of care, they will
Hmm.
decide this person needs to either go home, go back home,
Yeah,
go into a residential home, or go into a nursing home.
a
Mostly they
nursing
end
home.
up in a nursing home.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
So
that's the
back to the
difference.
back to the meeting
Back
now.
to the question now.
Back to the meeting. We are the meeting with the chef, and
Yes. Okay. So you had asked about the kind of patients we have.
yeah.
Um, I think a nursing home is an extension of a medical, surgical um,
Hmm.
ward or something.
Yeah.
Simply because we have patients with cardiovascular issues, we have patients with mental health issues.
Hmm.
We have patients with learning disabilities. We have
Hmm.
patients who have musculoskeletal issues, fractures, and whatnot. So it's just a typical combination of
Everything.
everything. So patient in room number one anaweza kuwa na cardiovascular issues, then patient number two is a case of cognitive impairment, but with underlying conditions such as maybe history of falls, multiple pressure sores, things like that.
Diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah. So there is
Yeah.
just many things. So we do not have, unlike the hospital where
A
you have
specific.
a specific ward for specific conditions. Here it's just
Mm.
all those conditions discharged from the different wards in the
Okay.
hospital
What
to a
about
care home.
the age range? Because in a hospital, like
Mhm.
in my ward, I think the youngest patient I've ever nursed was a 15-year-old. So we get
Oh,
like from 15 years, we get people in their 20s, their 30s, 50s. Then now we get the really elderly population. Is it the same with nursing homes?
no. Um, I think our youngest is 67.
Okay.
Youngest is 67. So, because we really have patients who have advanced age.
Yeah.
Different nursing homes have different policies. So, for my company, we have each nursing home has to admit at least two, no, at most two patients who are under 65s, but all the other patients have to be above 65.
Above 65. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Mm.
clear enough.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we go back to the meeting. Now, at 11, you have your meeting with the doctors, the visiting doctors, um, the chef, the nurses, the
Yeah.
carers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what happens?
So during the meeting, we discuss different issues of concerns, whether it's staffing levels, whether it's um, kitchen issues, whether it's patient issues, whether it's people needing to take annual leave. So we really discuss everything,
Everything.
everything, but we do prioritize patient
Okay.
concerns. Yeah. Then
Mm.
after that, we go back. The meeting takes about half an hour. Then you will go back to your unit, address whatever things that you need to do. But at around 12:30, 1 o'clock, you have to start the lunch hour medication round. And then in the afternoon, okay, we are up to up to that point, sindio?
Yeah.
Tumefika hapo. Yeah, so the afternoon round normally haikuangi long vile because most patients have paracetamols and yeah, so it's probably going to take you 30 minutes or so. Yeah.
That's true for us as well. But now
Yeah.
I think for us in the midday, we also have patients on TDS antibiotics. So
Mm,
you have IVs, you have IV fluids. So all these things are things that are happening at the same time. When the
yeah.
after the board round, which is now our form of that meeting, although us
Mhm,
the board round is restricted to patients only. Any other issues,
mhm.
you have to
Yeah,
look for
yeah.
the ward manager
I know.
privately. So after the board
Uh,
round, our doctors they start now seeing patients one by one. So what
uh,
normally happens, you find that in between they will see one patient and they will come to you and tell you, we need this for this patient, we need a urine
mhm.
sample for this patient, we need bloods for this
Yeah.
patient. So and I've realized this is different in different hospitals. Like
Mhm,
different hospitals have different jobs for nurses. But in my hospital, we do bloods, we do all these samples, we
mhm,
put catheters, we put cannulas.
mhm,
So the doctors will keep interacting you. So you really have to be on your feet.
mhm.
And before even we proceed with the work routine, what are your patient ratios? Because in my workplace, it's normally one nurse for 9 or 10 patients. So
Mhm.
what are your patient ratios in the nursing home?
So one nurse for 15, and you have three carers for the same. So three for 15 plus one nurse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So on good days, you have up to four carers, sometimes five, which makes it very easy for the nurse to just deal with your own
Okay.
tasks because the carers
Oh,
will deal with everything else.
what about now that we are talking about the morning? What about
Mhm,
ADLs, like activities of daily living? Who
mhm,
does the washes for patients? Who feed patients who can't feed themselves? Because in the hospital, we also
mhm.
have carers in the hospitals.
Yeah.
So most of the time, the carers are responsible for washing the patients and feeding them.
Mm,
But you find that you have to work together with the carers because
mhm.
sometimes they are short. So at the end of the day, then the patient is yours as a nurse. So the
Yeah.
carer is not liable by law. So if anything happens
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this patient, it's the nurse who is responsible. So when the carers are short, you have to help with the washes, help with the
Yeah.
feeding. Is it the same thing in the nursing home?
Yeah. It is. It is. It
Oh,
is.
it is the same thing.
Yeah.
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 Oh, okay. Okay. So
Mhm,
that's fine. So when we get to my afternoon in the ward, like I've
mhm,
done my lunchtime round of medications, are finished. So between 2 and 5, it's usually
mhm.
sort of just open ended, although you'll always find things to do. So you have
Yeah.
to do your notes. We still do our notes, which is
Mhm.
like the nursing cadex. Just that
Yeah.
now we don't do every hour or every. You just write, like, let's say if I sit down now and start writing, I will just write the date and the time, and I will
Yeah.
document everything that has happened.
Yeah.
Before COVID, there was visiting hours. So our
Yeah.
visiting hours were starting from midday until 4, half 12
Mhm.
to half 4. So you find that in the afternoon, you're also dealing with a lot of relatives coming to ask for
Mhm.
updates, coming
Yeah.
to complain, coming to speak to you. So you have to deal with that as well in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And then again, you're doing bloods, you're inserting catheters, you're
Mhm.
implementing the doctor's
Yeah,
plans,
yeah.
whatever they said, you're ordering
Mhm.
medication from pharmacy. So the afternoons are not as intense as the day,
Mhm.
the morning bit of the
Mhm.
shift, but you still have a lot to do. Then at 5 o'clock, we start our evening round. And before you know, it's 7:30. The night
Mhm.
shift have come, then you hand over. So what's your afternoon like in the care home?
Okay, one thing about a care home is that residents are there for a long time. So you find that most of the procedures you do are just they're quite limited. For example, you might need to change a catheter. Yeah. You might need to collect bloods, which are done not as routinely as they would have been done in a hospital. So you might have to do that.
Yeah.
Um, Most of the things you will end up doing in the afternoons are the wound dressings, because we do have a lot of patients who come from the hospital with pressure sores. So you do
No,
loads
they
of
come from the care homes with pressure to the
well,
hospital.
that's the I mean, I do acknowledge that that argument is continuing. It's just like
Yeah,
the blue bubbles and the green bubbles argument between iPhones and Androids, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
It has no
so
end. Yeah.
yeah, it has no end. So people will say this patient came from a care home with a pressure sore.
Pressure, so
I
yeah.
do admit that sometimes we do have patients who develop pressure sores in the care home, but all the patients that we have at the moment, I speak for myself, for my colleagues. Yeah, all these patients came through the hospital. So either they developed the pressure sore in the hospital, or they came with the pressure sore to the hospital, and then they were discharged for further management in a care home. Um, so that's it. Then the other thing you would find yourself doing in the afternoon is again dealing with relatives, because we try to schedule our visiting hours in the afternoon, especially during these COVID times.
Yeah.
Sahi, the government has said that you can have an unlimited number of visitors, but we've had a COVID outbreak recently, so we are trying to limit the number of visitors who are coming in, because some haven't been able to see their relatives for a long time. You have a lot of questions to answer, so that ends up keeping you busy in the afternoon. What else do you end up doing? Um, Not much really. Afternoons are normally a bit free as compared to
Oh,
mornings. Mornings ndo nakimbizana na pharmacy. Where is
yeah.
this drug? It was ordered yesterday, you haven't delivered. Yeah, so yeah. And then
Uh,
you have visiting professions coming in the afternoon, and any telephone assessments. We want to do all that stuff in the afternoon.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So your shift, what time does your shift end? The day shift?
My shift ends at 8:15. Um, for the carers, the shift ends at 8. So the night nurses will come at 7:45.
Oh, okay.
So 7:45, and then by around 8, you've already given your handover, maybe just do a bit of controlled drugs checking, and then by 8:15, you're gone.
So basically, in terms of the nursing care, it's more or less the same because
Mm,
from what you've said, you do medications, you do wound care, you have
mm,
patients with not NG tubes, PEG tubes, yeah?
yeah. And
Yeah,
peg tubes, yeah.
yeah, PEG tubes. So you do feeding through that. You
Yeah.
take bloods, but not as
Yeah, we do.
routinely. You
Yeah,
do catheters. So
absolutely.
it's not that different. I think maybe the only thing that we do would be now cannulas and uh,
The
intravenous
IVs.
medication, and us
Hmm.
now we have NG tubes as well for patients.
Hmm.
We do wound care, we do medication. So I guess in terms of the nursing care, it's not too
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, I
That's
think
interesting
probably
to note. Yeah.
probably what would be different in the shift
Mhm.
is the involvement of um, other professionals. For example,
Okay.
for you, you have doctors
Mhm.
um, at
Disposal.
your disposal. Yeah, that's the word. But 2 years down the line. Yeah. So you have
Yeah.
doctors at your disposal. You have physios, you have TVNs,
Yeah.
you have all these people who you
Mm,
would probably get coming in to see patients nearly
yeah.
every other day. Yeah.
Every other day. Yeah.
Yeah. And for us, we do not have that. So it might be a challenge when you're trying to get them in. So you have to do a referral. Sometimes they don't respond immediately. They may just give you provisional recommendations. So that that is probably one of the key differences that people might need to know.
And do you do regular observations like the way we do in the wards? Like, do you monitor the
Mm.
vitals?
We do,
Mhm.
especially, but this came in after COVID, where you
Sorry.
have to do regular. Uh, I can't see you. Sorry. Yeah, you have to do regular observations for the patients. You have to do the BPs. You have to do the temperatures, and especially the temperature and the SpO2s. The BP, unless for those patients who you would be very concerned, but generally we do vital observations once weekly. That is BP, pulse, all those things once weekly. The company policies or the work policies and procedures might be different, but that is what has been laid out for us. Yeah. Mm.
So if a patient in the nursing home is deteriorating and they need to come to
Mhm.
hospital, who does the referral? Is it you, the nurse, who determines that this patient is really unwell, they need to go to hospital, and you call an ambulance, or what's that procedure like?
Yeah. So for us, normally we have patients who are stable, but we also have patients who we would classify as end of life, not
Yeah.
actively, but they're within the bracket of end of life. That means that they have an advanced care plan, which probably states that if I am to enter actively into my end of life phase, don't send me to the hospital. Uh, don't send me to a different care home. Don't do anything. Basically, don't call the paramedics. Just let me go in peace.
Yeah.
We have all those advanced care plans in place, but there are patients whose wishes for the future, as we call them, um, they have clearly stipulated, but that if I am to deteriorate in any way, please send me to the hospital. So one, we have to look at that,
Okay.
and that is also stated in the DNA CPR or
DNA
escalation
CPR.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's written in that. So for patients who that is not clear or whatever is going on is reversible, for example, if we suspect chest infection or just anything that might need IVs, we normally do our assessment, the vitals, then we call the GP and inform them that this patient is not doing well. We would appreciate if you would come and have a look. But if you're not able to, that is normally within the working hours, the GP
Okay.
working hours, because
Uh-huh.
at some point you might need to call the 111 GPs who would probably just say call an ambulance and send the patient to the hospital. Yeah, so sometimes you might use your own discretion and say, hey, this patient is not doing well. I'm going to send this patient to the hospital. That is if their care plan does not say whether or not they want to be sent to the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's really, yeah, really clear. I
mm,
guess that's the
yeah.
difference.
Mm,
So now when it comes to the night shift,
mhm,
the nights are more relaxed than the days for us, because when you come in for the night, you get your handover at 7:30. Again, you start giving your night medication. And then we normally do the observations at 11, and the blood
mhm,
sugars as well. And
mm,
then now between, let's say, 11 and 5 o'clock, you just pray
mhm.
to God that you don't get any emergencies because some nights you go, you have so much happening. But some nights, when the nights are calm, between 11 and 5, you just do your notes and now just respond to the patient's needs. Maybe they want to use the toilet, maybe they want food, because some patients will be asking for a cup of tea at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So then at 5, you do the obs again and the blood sugars, and then you do your all IV medication. We give the morning IV medication is given by the night shift.
Yeah.
Then after that, you hand over, and that's it. You go home. So the night is a bit more relaxed. How is your
Mhm.
night like in the care home?
Well, nights are better than days in terms of the tasks.
Yeah. Mm.
I'm
And
not a
also
night.
also
Yeah,
no
go ahead.
relatives to deal with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the best part. I hope hakuna relative anawatch here. Yeah, lakini I think, well, I'm not into nights really. I've worked as a night nurse for I think 2 months only. Since I came to the UK. I did my first night in June 2020, and then I did my second night in 2021 June.
Wow.
So
You're lucky
yeah,
you're lucky you have that option.
it's really not an option, but I
Mm,
would say we have nurses who have been contracted to work for night shifts only, and we have enough of them. So you have day nurses who sometimes we are flexible, we can do nights, but mostly you have nights already covered by night nurses.
yeah.
So a night for me, I get there at 7:45, get the handover. At 8:30, I would start my medication round for the 9 o'clock meds, because sometimes they might be a lot, but not too much. Alafu after that, you find that maybe we received a new resident into the care home, and you have these multiple care plans that you need to write. The mandatory care plans, like you have to follow a particular list and do certain prioritized care plans. So you might do that the whole night. You have carers, the good thing. So the carers will keep monitoring the patients. If any patient needs to go to the toilet or use the toilet, the carer is there to assist the patient. And then if there are any regular observations that need to be done, and by observations, I don't mean the BPs, and I mean the night checks, where you just have to peep into the residence room, especially if they're highly mobile, cause anaweza kuwa alishuka kwa kitanda akaanguka chini.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to keep doing those checks. You might have patients who have behavior challenges, and
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they tend to be escalated at night. I don't know why this is so. Yeah, so you have to check on those though. Uh, then at around 6, you do your 6 o'clock medication round, which is just few tablets. It might be about 20 minutes and you're done. Then you do your paperwork, prepare for your handover. 7:45, 8 a.m. you do your handover and then you just leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah, I guess the nights are just relaxed because you don't have,
yeah,
those board rounds and whatnot and meetings and everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so so thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to say,
Mhm.
if you have any questions, please feel free to type down in the comments and we'll answer as we go along. So I think what I want you to tell me now, what do you love about your job? Like, do you enjoy working in a care home? What do you love most about working in a care home?
F- for me, I think my career journey has taken a different direction within a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I like about working in a care home is that for me, the company I work for has given me opportunities to advance career-wise, which is a plus for me.
Ex- uh,
Um,
do you want to break them down, like career advancement? Because in terms of the hospital, in the
mm,
NHS, we work with bands. So when you come in, immediately you come in from wherever you've come from overseas,
Mm, mhm.
you come as a band 4.
Yeah.
Then when you get your pin, you become a band 5. Then
Mhm,
as you advance, you become a band 6. Then
mhm,
a band 7. A band 7 are the ward managers. Then the band 8s
mhm.
are the matrons, who are the nursing in charge of they're usually in charge of about 6 wards. And then we
Mhm.
have, I think band 8, it's 8A, 8B, and so on.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with with the NHS is that um, the salary difference is not so much. Like if you move from a band 5 to a band 6 to a band 7, the salary difference is not that much. But if you think of it as a career
Mhm.
advancement, well and good.
Yeah.
Because when you get to a band 6, now you get more responsibilities, you get to
Mhm.
do more admin work, you get to do um, you have more access to the system. I mean, you can have access to the rota, you have more access to the system.
Mhm.
So, what is the career advancement like in the care home? Like when you came in, what level are you and what level are you now?
So for us, we don't work with bands. I know every other nurse that I've met in the care home is probably a band. Is it band 5? But there's that hierarchy of um leadership and
Yeah.
management that is in any given company or care home setting. So for the care home I work for, we do have, obviously you come in as a pre-registered nurse.
Yeah.
When you come in, I know in the NHS sometimes they might tell you don't go to the ward until you do your OSCE. Um,
Yeah, that's
but in a
true.
care home, they allow you to go in. You work 3 shifts or 4 shifts a week. You work 1 day or 2 days as a nurse, shadowing another nurse who's qualified.
Yeah.
And the other days you work with the carers just to get to know the residents. So once you get your PIN, you are now a registered nurse. You are a band 5 nurse. Yeah.
Okay.
And because most of the nurses have not had that opportunity to go up
Oh, good.
in terms of going to band 6 and band 7 and so on and
Sorry.
so forth. So for us, what most people aim for is moving from the level of being a registered nurse into a level of being a senior nurse. You move into a clinical lead role, you move into a deputy manager role, you move into a manager's role, you move to a regional manager's role, you move into a regional director's role, up until you get to one of those big big positions
Where
in
are
the.
you now?
So currently when I came in, obviously nilianza kama pre-reg nurse, nikaingia
Yeah.
registered nurse. Then when COVID hit, the guys just had a quick meeting, and then I was put through an interview, and then I was given the position of a senior nurse.
Oh,
And
okay.
then after that, in August of last year, I went to a different care home. I was transferred to a sister care home, and I was an interim deputy manager for a period of 4 months. Then I was redeployed. Like,
Redeployed.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
no, I mean nilirudishwa place yenye nilikuwa, so I was transferred back to the
Okay.
initial place of work, and then I continued there as a clinical lead nurse, which I am up until this moment.
Okay.
So for me, the roles have changed in terms of having nearly full access to what the manager has.
Yeah.
Um, I think if there is any access I don't have, is probably one or two things. But whatever the manager is able to do in terms of admin stuff, rotas, staffing levels, dealing with complaints, relatives, CQC, all those things I've been able to do. We did have several CQC inspections because there were allegations before I even came to the UK. So I found the thing going on.
You found the one going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So those,
do you still, in your current role, do you still actively
yeah,
do nursing care, or now you are the in charge, yeah, overseeing all the other nurses?
barely. Um, but it would change only if we have staffing levels going south, especially
Mm,
during the COVID, this recent rise in the Omicron variant, where we had so many staff isolating.
yeah.
So I, I don't actively work on the floor as a nurse, but um, I do lots of management stuff in terms of
Mm,
staffing, um, just making things run.
oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for
okay.
me, that's why I say for me, the the path has changed so quickly,
Mm,
and for me, that's a good thing. Maybe
yeah.
for somebody else, they might think, um, well, there's no advancement for me at this point. Maybe nimekaa hapa
Mm,
hivi for a long time, and there's no that active advancement in terms of career progression. So there are those scenarios as well.
mhm.
Yeah,
So you've never considered moving to the NHS? Because I know of people who came through care homes and then they moved to the NHS. Is that something
I did. Yeah,
you thought
I
about
did.
it? Okay.
I thought about it. I think I also had a chat with you at the beginning
Yes.
when I was telling you, oh, I think I need to go
Yeah.
to the NHS. Oh,
And
this is going to be so hard.
like I said at the beginning, me, I'm biased. Me, I will tell you, yes, 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 please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I had given myself about 6 months to a year to
Mm,
make me decide whether or not I want to stay in a care home.
yeah.
And true to my prediction, I thought after a year, I thought, no, I think I need to just stay here for some
Stay
time. I
here.
think the path looks a bit um, clearer for me here.
Mm,
Would I want to join the NHS at some point? Yes, it's something I also think about. I would want to go out and try get the experience that the NHS offers. Is that something I want to do now? No.
no.
Is it something I want to do later? Yes. But
Yeah.
again, it's a 50-50 kind of thing, because I mean, if for example my company offers me a bigger role, I don't think I want
To
to
live.
move from that
Mm,
um into the NHS and start from a lower position.
wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So, um, I think the opposite of that, what don't you like about your job? What is so because if I'm to say honestly, sometimes the words are really, really overwhelming. Like I say, there are so
Mm,
many, like, the physios are coming to tell you this, the pharmacist will come and tell you this, the doctor is telling you this, you have your
mm,
patients. Sometimes you have one who is really sick, you have relatives on the phone, like it's never
yeah,
ending. And sometimes you get so fed up you get so fed up with the job.
yeah,
So, what would you
yeah.
say is something that you really don't like about working in a care home?
I don't like the stagnance in terms
Mm.
of uh I don't know. I think it's probably because we have a resident coming in and they stay with us for months.
Oh, okay.
And if we have such residents, say for example, to measure a ward of 15 rooms with such residents
Yeah.
who are not likely to be discharged. Most of them, they are here for end of life, so they will not be
Mm,
discharged home for any reason. So even if they go for temporary admission to the hospital, they will still come back.
yeah.
So the fact that you will see the same resident for the next couple of months,
Yeah.
years sometimes,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so there's that means you will be exposed to the same thing, the same
Yeah.
routine every day, Monday to Friday, Monday to
Yeah.
Sunday,
Mm,
Monday to Monday. Yeah, so you will be exposed to that same thing. Well, whereas in the hospital, I believe, I think ni kama conduit. Like
yeah.
patients are there, they're either coming there and then getting discharged home after a short period of time, ama wanakuja huko hivyo and then once stabilized, they are sent to the care home. So it's constant movement. That
Yeah.
means you get different patients who require different levels of care.
And I honestly understand how nursing one patient for a long time can be exhausting.
Yeah,
because we have one in my ward who stayed for about 5 months, and at this point, and it also makes you become complacent because nobody really,
Yeah.
because we know him, he's there every day, nothing is changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah. Just to add,
uh,
sorry, just to add on
okay.
onto that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Having the same patients over a long period of time is a is a disadvantage in one way, but also it's an advantage for
Mm,
you when it comes to designing care plans for these patients.
yeah.
In the community, they are so concerned about developing person-centered care and support plans. So if
Mm,
you've spent time, say 3, 4, 5 months, 1 year taking care of one particular patient, um, the kind of care plan that you will design for the social workers to have a look at, and the
yeah.
CCG and the local authorities and the CQC, they end up being very outstanding.
Oh,
And
okay.
basically, these patients are our friends now. I mean,
Yeah,
they've become family.
they're family
Yeah, they're
now.
now family. Yeah, they're family.
Yeah, so before I go to the questions in the chat box,
Mhm.
one thing that I need to talk about again, I think when we came in 2019, we compared salaries.
It's a low bana. Pesa, pesa,
Care home.
pesa. Okay, so I assume your question is,
So we compared salaries. I remember we honestly compared salaries,
yeah,
and
we
I've
did.
realized, guys, this is something you need to do with your friends. You know, like especially when you start working for an agency, you need to ask people honestly, how much are you getting paid? Because you may realize people are being paid this much, you're being paid this much,
Mhm.
just because you didn't negotiate. So when we compared salary at that point in back in 2019, you were earning about £400 more than I was per month. About
Mhm.
£500 more
Yeah,
than I was.
yeah,
So I guess in terms of care homes, the pay is better than the NHS.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're coming at entry level basic,
Mm,
basically kama unaingia kama a pre-registered nurse,
yeah.
your pay is not that good, really. You might be paid the rate of a senior carer, which is in London is something like 12 or so pounds
Per hour.
per hour. And then once you become a registered nurse, that shoots up to an unbelievable rate when you compare to the NHS.
Please tell us how many
Yeah, so if
the
you're working,
unbelievable
and I'm not
rates.
speaking
Yeah.
about working for an agency,
Yeah, you're
because
speaking
that is
your care home.
a completely different
Mm,
thing. Um, so your salary in London, depending on which company you're working for, hourly rates might be anything between 20 to 24 pounds. Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
now in your
I know.
in your I am shocked. In your position now as a senior nurse, it's gone up again.
Yeah, it's gone up. It's definitely gone up.
Okay,
Um,
because
yeah. So when I started, they were paying at 20 pounds per hour, and that is immediately after I got my PIN.
yeah.
But obviously, when you advance, and also the company does their own salary increases every year. So
Yeah.
um, I think they've done that about 3 times. So the salary has definitely gone up. Um, I won't go to the exact
The
numbers,
details. Yeah.
the exact
Because
figures kama
because yeah,
mtu anataka kujua, hizo ni confidential juu. But um, yeah, mtu anitext
your
nitamuambia.
relatives might be watching.
Mtu anitext.
Your relatives may
Yeah,
be watching. Oh
yeah,
my
but
god.
yeah, basically
But
the,
now
the
tell us in terms of
Mhm.
per hour, so that someone who is interested can
Yeah,
do the math for themselves. So
yeah.
about 25 pounds per hour. Yeah.
Um, 25 might be for someone who's been there for a long time,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
for quite a time. But mse mwenye ameanza, someone
Mm,
who's starting, maybe something like 20 pounds, 21 pounds, or 19 pounds. depending on which company you're working for.
Mm,
Yeah. For my company, I would start with I think right now it's
21.
21. Yeah.
So just to tell you how different it
Mm,
is, for me right now, my pay rate is £12 per hour. So I'm being paid like a carer in
mm,
the nursing home. Yeah. Okay.
mm.
So that's a huge difference because
Right now,
that's still
like
like
you mean right now?
right now.
Is it well, is it because it's out of London, yeah, is it?
No, because you know what? I'm not even that far out of London, so we still get that.
Mm,
What is it normally called? Um, High cost area
yeah,
allowance. I don't know.
ile ya
It has a
Nairobi
name.
ile.
It has a name. High cost area, something of the
Yeah,
sort.
yeah.
So that's the pay rate in the NHS. So I
Mm,
think that brings us now. We are starting to narrow down.
yeah.
If you want to choose between NHS and care home, what are your priorities? Yeah. And
Mm.
someone asked, does one lose their clinical experience and skills working in care home in comparison to the hospital?
Um, Clinical experience, I would assume you mean after you've worked in a hospital for a long
Skills.
time.
I mean, skills and clinical experience.
Oh, sorry.
Because
Yeah.
for me right now, Brian, I think, but I knew you were a good nurse from back
Mm,
then.
mm, mm,
So probably your skills maybe. But
mm.
me and you now, if we get the same patient, I think I'm better at putting cannulas. I'm
Yeah.
better at putting catheters.
Mm,
Is that so? Or what do you think? Me, I think you will lose your clinical skills.
yeah. Okay. I do agree with you. Uh, you would lose a good level of your clinical skills. I mean, speaking for someone who worked in accidents and emergencies back in Kenya. Imagine umetoka casualty
Yeah.
and you've landed in a care home, where actually you have to be trained in order to do cannulation. You have to be trained, even though nikikuja I had all these skills.
Yeah.
I remember at some point nilifanya cannulation, and then the manager was like, oh, have you been trained? I was still a pre-registered nurse. I was fiery, nilikuwa nimetoka accident emergency, and then this nurse was not able to do cannulation, and I was there. So just to answer you, yeah, you do
You
you
do lose
do
your skills
you
over
you
time.
do lose over time. I don't think I would be able to manage the same patient presented to me the same way you would manage the same
Yeah.
patient in the NHS.
Yeah,
That is why
because
we because we are not equipped as care homes to deal with these
yeah.
complex cases. We send them to the hospital where you
Yeah,
know.
because in the wards, we have medical emergency calls, so we do
Yeah,
BLS, we do all those things.
yeah.
We have those situations, especially depending on the ward where you're at.
Mm.
So I think we both agree that if you work in a care home over time, you lose your clinical skills. Someone else is asking,
You lose your clinical skills to an extent. You
to,
will
to-
not you will not stop being a nurse. You will still be able to inject people, you will still be able to do vitals. So you will not completely become
you will not, you will not
you
become
to
a
yeah,
normal person. You're
yeah,
still a nurse.
to an
Okay.
extent you will lose a good deal of your clinical
Uh,
skills.
okay.
Yeah.
Does NHS have yearly salary increment? Yes, it does. But I think that increment is usually very tiny. You can't even feel the impact of the increment because,
Mm,
yeah, for the 2 years that when I came, our starting salary was 24.
mm,
Now the starting salary is 25. So probably it will increase again to 26. So it does increase, but they increase it per annum. They don't
mm,
increase it per month. They increase
mm.
it per annum. So when you divide the increase by 12 and you add the tax, it becomes really something very small.
Mm.
And someone else is asking, do patients in end of life sometimes leave leave for your nurses some of their wealth to inherit?
Well,
Because You know what? I've seen a lot of patients who have no family. You
Yeah,
know, unlike us Africans who are so conditioned that you have to get married and have children,
yeah,
in the first world, many people
yeah,
don't have children. Many people are
yeah,
never married and they are
yeah.
happily living their lives. So, do you ever get to inherit wealth?
Um, no, you don't. Just
Mhm.
because there are company policies and procedures.
Yeah,
I mean, relatives who are fond of you might leave you with some souvenirs, which you have to actually inform the management that you've received this and that.
yeah,
And they've insisted that I should have it. I have some souvenir metallic cups in my house, just because our relatives, no, a relative to a resident I was taking care of said um he would have wanted you to have this.
yeah.
So yeah, so they do, but they will never leave you their wealth in terms of
Their
money. And
wealth. Yeah,
yeah,
I know. Yeah, in the hospital, we get lots of chocolate.
yeah,
Lots of
absolutely,
chocolate.
absolutely. And
Usually
cards.
sweets or chocolate. So you're thinking, huh, why?
Yeah.
But that's all we normally get.
Mm,
And it's normally generally for the whole world. Most people just like saying the whole
mm,
world, thank you for taking care of me. And
yeah.
so okay, so if you still have any other questions as we conclude, because we are already past the 1 hour mark. So
Mm,
we're just about to conclude. So if you still have any questions regarding working to care home or the NHS, feel free to type in the comment section. So
mm,
Brian, what would be your honest advice to a nurse in Kenya or in Africa or wherever, whichever part of the world, who
mm.
wants to come and work in the UK, and they're torn between going to the NHS or going to the care home? What would be your honest advice?
Um, my honest advice is again based on um the two things that we just discussed short while ago:
Yeah.
money and skills. So between those two, what do you want? I mean, if you want to come to the UK for a short period of time because you have projects that you want to do back home, you want a lot of money, uh, just join a care home, go have an easy life, make a lot of money, join an agency, make double the amount of money you're making now,
Triple the amount of money.
triple,
Yeah.
yeah, fund your projects back home, raise a good amount of savings, then go back home and chill.
Yeah.
In terms of you that kind of nurse who wants to to really be good at what they are doing in terms of their skills, being exposed to different patients, different technology, different professionals, working together with very skilled people. If you're
Yeah.
looking for that, the NHS is your place. Please don't go to the care home, because you will start, second guessing yourself, probably regretting. But like I said, I think paths are different. When I came to the UK, I was like, I'm in a care home. No, I want to cry. I feel so bad. But right now, I'm like, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it really depends. For guys who have just graduated recently, I would suggest please go to the NHS. Simply because you're going to learn a lot, especially if you have not had any length of experience in Kenya.
Yeah.
Please go to the NHS, get the experience. If you want to join a care home, do that later on. Yeah,
I think that's the most honest advice, and I
yeah,
totally agree with you. It all depends on your goals. What are your
yeah,
goals? And that's very good advice as well. Because if you're a new nurse, you're a junior nurse, and you still don't have the most clinical skills, because when you're
yeah,
fresh from school there's so many things you need to learn.
yeah,
So it's better to start with the NHS, because then you really learn a lot in terms of patient care. But
mm,
as Brian has clearly stated, nursing homes, they still do nursing care, they still
yeah.
practice a lot of things.
What might be, and this is something that they really need to ask their agencies before they come to the UK.
Yeah.
Are they going to a nursing home, or are they going to a
A
residential home.
residential
Because
home.
if you go to a residential home, you will
Yeah.
mostly be taking care of patients in terms of somebody is running, they're about to have a fall. You have to send a carer to deal with that. You know, there's a limited number of things you can do in a residential home as compared to to a
Oh,
nursing home. Yeah,
oh, that's really good advice. Like if you get
yeah,
a job, and it's very good to, do research, like Google your
yeah,
hospital or
mm,
the facility because all the information is on Google. So, these agents, what I realize, some of them don't give you all the information because they
mm,
want to make their commission. So they're not going to give you, they just want to sign you up. So
yeah.
it's good to Google, it will tell you whether it's a residential or a nursing home.
Or
I
both.
have a friend. I have a friend who I really wanted to join this live because he came through a care home. Then he transferred
Mm,
to the NHS, but he could
mhm,
not because of other commitments.
yeah,
But in his experience, I know
mhm,
sometimes you really want to leave Kenya, like you just want to leave,
yeah,
whether, okay, not just Kenya, Africa, let me say Africa. So the first opportunity you get, you take it, and
yeah.
then you come here and transfer. That is a good strategy to use, but it can be really stressful as well because
It is.
the whole process of transferring is not cheap and it's stressful.
Yeah.
So I've known people who just go straight to care home because it's the first job offer they get.
Mhm,
So when you're trying to move abroad, it's really important to have that as well. Like it may be good just to leave the country, but think about it. If you can get an offer in the hospital, especially if you're a new nurse, then
yeah.
the hospital is better for you. So I think that's just it. I think we've exhausted everything, unless there's something else you want to add, Brian.
Um,
Uh,
Really, I don't think there's anything else I want to add because we've really discussed a lot. Again, this is my experience. I work in one care home in the entire UK, so there's
yeah.
hundreds
And
and probably thousands of
actually,
others.
someone is asking which care
Yeah.
home. Brian, uko care home EP?
Um, who's that?
Mwema Suleimani
No, I can just tell them I work with Sanctuary Care.
or Sanctuary Care?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sanctuary Care.
So
But the
it's
specific of the place,
you're not, you can inbox him later. Maybe he wants
yeah,
to
they
have
can
some.
just inbox me.
Yeah, so Mwema
Yeah.
Suleimani, you can talk
Mm,
to Brian later. So
mm,
I think, oh, and as we conclude, something else I've remembered to mention.
mm.
Actually, you can do both. Actually, you can work in both NHS and care home because,
Yeah,
like right now, once I sign up with an agency, I can choose to go to a care home. I know I have friends who work in the NHS, but when they go for their agency shifts, they go to the care
care
home.
homes. Yeah.
So really, when it comes to it, you can have your cake and eat it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're someone who is like adventurous and you want to explore different options,
Mm.
you can always do that. I don't think if you work in a care home, you can come to the NHS to do
It's
shift.
difficult
Yeah.
unless you have uh, prior experience in the NHS. That is
Uh,
what they look for. But so if you are in a care home and you join an agency, they will most likely send you to different care homes.
okay.
Again, like for me, there's no point of sending me to a medical ward in the NHS, and I've never worked in the NHS
Yeah.
just
Yeah, it
because
will be
I'm an agency.
difficult.
Well, yeah, it's just going to be sour money. Sio ni ile pesa yenye ni kali unakula ukiliaga.
you know,
Mm.
you know what? There's an agency shift I've ever done. Honestly, I
Yeah,
wanted to tell them, you know what, you guys don't even pay me because I suffered through that shift.
yeah,
I
mm,
was so bitter with that money. I did not even enjoy the money.
yeah,
Okay. I think
yeah.
thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much, Brian, for taking your time to have this discussion with me today. I have honestly learned so much. I didn't, up till today, I didn't even know the difference between a nursing home and a residential home. So it's been a
And
learning
by the way,
experience.
we wear nursing uniform. Just as a by the way, manze,
Uh,
we wear nursing
by the
uniform.
way, you were
Yeah. we wear
Okay.
nurse uniform.
Oh, okay. No, but you're still registered nurses. You're still registered by NMC.
Yeah.
So you're still
Yeah.
nurses at the end of the day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's just it. Yeah, it's already 1 hour 9 minutes, and I don't
And
want to go past that. So thank you everyone who's tuned in. This recording is still going to be there for future reference. And in case you have any questions, I think yeah, I'll give Brian's handle there. Looks like Mwema Suleimani really wants to talk to you. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
feel free
Okay,
to
yeah.
inbox
So
me.
yeah,
And I have a
yes.
question for you, Gertrude.
Oh, okay.
Other than work, what else do you do? Because work can just stress you out if you have nothing else to do. In terms of going out and just anything
Brian,
that relieves
Brian,
stress.
I was
Yeah.
coming to it.
Oh, okay. Sawa sawa.
I know why you're asking this question, but I was coming to it. But okay, well, you've
Yeah.
asked.
Mm,
So, yeah, I work full time as a nurse. I do agency shifts as well, and I
mm,
run this platform called World Class Nurse. So it's across all the platforms. It's on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
mhm.
So I just like sharing, having these conversations with people and sharing experience just to empower nurses. I don't know about you, Brian. How was your experience as a student nurse? I know we were in the same school, but how would you say your experience was? And even after internship, like transitioning, how was that for you?
My experience as a student nurse, I was just a typical student nurse. My life wasn't adventurous in campus. Um, I used to be in a music band from first year up until fourth year. I used to play piano for
Yeah.
a certain music band. Then after graduating, I started doing my personal hustles. So unajua that period between
Yeah.
waiting for internship and the time you graduate. Yeah, so I would do shifts in a clinic, shifts in a private hospital. I would do online writing, and then I
Yeah.
would still play for the band. We would go out for weddings and stuff, and that would make up a few dollars. Yeah.
Okay.
Then transitioning to the UK, I think that was the hardest, boldest decision I've ever made in my life. Um, that was quite a move. Um, Simply because the time I landed at Heathrow, I just looked back and I was like, "This is it. I can't go back. I'm here. I know nobody."
The feeling is mutual.
And then and then this guy, this driver who's here to pick me in a cab, he's like, "Come out. Where are you?" I can't see you. I'm like, "Geez, I'm here for the first time in Ikea. I don't even know where to go." I've never been in such a busy airport before, so
Brian,
it was
I think
wow.
I think we need to have another session on our first day. Like I think that's another because I know there is a lot of drama
Uh,
in
Yeah,
between. But
but
anyway,
good
my
thing,
point, yeah,
yeah,
the
good
good
thing
thing,
I managed to plug in with friends. I have friends
uh,
from work. I have friends from out of work. I lived with
yeah,
different flatmates at some point who really became good friends. Yeah, so do I have a social life? Absolutely, I have a social life.
absolutely good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Brian here is a musician.
Oh yeah,
You can see the speakers behind.
yeah.
Actually, your song is really nice. I always listen to it, especially the rap.
Yeah.
So, Brand Roju nazidi kung'aa,
uh,
maisha iko sawa.
yeah, yeah. Um,
So, yeah. So, where can people find your music? And
so well, I have this label called
mhm,
Mobs Music. Um, so if you go to YouTube and look for Mobs Music, that's MOBX, and then music. That's basically me. I've done a few songs in there and a few clips. I'm working on a couple of projects, hoping to drop an EP by around June.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I make beats. I don't make beats for people in terms of commercialization. It's for fun. If you want a beat, just inbox me. I'll make one for you for free.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that just goes to show that nurses are amazing. And
absolutely.
you don't have to
Talented.
limit yourself to just
Uh-uh.
nursing, nursing, nursing every day.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can be a nursing gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be
I
a
mean,
gamer.
nowadays there's so many options. So,
Yeah,
Brian, thank you very, very much for honoring this call. And again, now you've given me even an idea. We'll have to redo this and talk about
absolutely.
our first week,
Experience.
first
Eh?
week in the,
Oh, the things they don't tell you.
the things they don't tell you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for tuning in. Please
Mm,
follow Mobs Music, MOBX, on Instagram and YouTube, and follow World Class Nurse. Go subscribe to YouTube. Follow
mm.
me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. So I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Brian,
Thank you.
bye bye. Enjoy your
Bye
evening.
bye.
Everyone
Thank you, you
else,
too.
have a good night and bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.